The Little Fir Tree. Deep in a forest, where the air was cool and the ground soft with needles and moss, there grew a little fir tree. It stood among taller trees that swayed gently in the wind. Sunlight reached it in thin, shifting patterns, and birds sometimes rested in its branches. The little fir tree was healthy and strong, with bright green needles and straight limbs. But it was not content. Each day it looked upward and outward, watching the larger trees around it. It watched them stretch higher into the sky. It listened as travellers passed beneath them, speaking of distant places. It heard stories of ships made from great trees, of warm rooms and candlelight, of seasons that changed more quickly than life in the forest ever seemed to. The little fir tree wished to be older. It wished to be taller. It wished to be anywhere but where it was. When winter came, snow covered the forest floor. The little fir tree shivered beneath the cold, watching as birds flew away and as the days grew short. Still, it thought only of the future. If only I were grown, it thought. If only time would hurry. Spring returned, and with it warmth and light. The fir tree grew, just as trees do, adding new branches and fresh green needles. But instead of feeling pleased, it grew restless. Summer passed, autumn followed. The tree grew taller still, and yet it was never enough. One winter evening, woodcutters came into the forest. They spoke cheerfully as they worked, cutting down the tallest trees and carrying them away. The little fir tree watched closely. Where are they taking them? It wondered. They are going into houses, said a nearby bird. They will stand in warm rooms, covered in lights, and people will gather around them. The fir tree's heart leapt. That night it could not rest. It longed to leave the forest behind. Soon after, the woodcutters returned. This time they stopped at the little fir tree. In a moment it was cut down, its roots separated from the earth it had known since it first began to grow. It was carried away, tied tightly, and loaded onto a cart. The forest disappeared behind it. The fir tree was taken into a warm house and placed upright in a room filled with people. Candles were lit, decorations were hung on its branches. Gifts were placed beneath it. The tree stood still, overwhelmed. This, it thought, must be happiness. But the night passed quickly. The candles burned down. The room grew quiet. By morning, the decorations were removed, and the fir tree was carried away once more. This time, it was placed in a dark corner. Days passed. The needles began to dry. The branches sagged. The fir tree remembered the forest, the wind, the birds, the changing light, and felt a strange ache. At last, it was taken again, this time to an open space where it was broken apart and thrown into the fire. As the flames rose, the fir tree felt warmth once more, but it was brief. And as the fire died down, there was nothing left of the tree that had once wished so fiercely for the future. The forest continued on. Seasons turned as they always had. New trees began to grow where the old ones had fallen, and the quiet truth remained, unspoken but clear. The little fir tree had been happiest when it was simply growing, when it was alive to the moment it stood in, rather than the one it imagined ahead.